Welcome back, everyone. It's hot out. Well, for today. This is episode 137. I'm Coach Robyn.
I'm Coach Chris.
And today we're talking about re-entry to heat training because it's time.
It's time.
Chicago weather would be cray.
All over the place.
But literally last weekend it was 85. I was melting. The pugs barely made it around the block, which is crazy because in summer they can totally handle that. And we never really know what tomorrow brings. But what we do know is that we have, at this point, it's still April, we have very little heat exposure, right? So when it gets hot, we and the pugs feel it, right? Think of yourself like Tank. He has no heat acclimation, so he is going to feel it big time. And it's crazy because even when it's not that hot, like 60, 65, it can feel so much hotter than that this time of year because we aren't good at it yet, right? So this is real.
Did we talk about this? I was in Washington, D.C. when it was so hot here, and I thought it was going to be 70 degrees, and I was out. I was dying walking around. I thought I was literally melting, inferno on the inside, just like, I was like, how am I going to survive this summer? And then I found that I walked past a clock that actually had the temperature. It was 85.
Oh,
so I felt a little better, but I was still
panicked,
sizzling on the inside. I'm so not heat acclimated, and it's a scary moment right now to be like, how am I going to make it through training for a long race in future summer weather? How is it possible?
And I got a lot of these comments from my athletes this weekend.
Yeah.
They would go out for like 3 to 4 mile runs, and they were just blowing up. They didn't plan. This is actually why we got this idea for this episode, because so many of you did so terribly. But really what it speaks to is like, we're not good at it yet. So let's talk about how to get better at it and not freak out about it, because that is absolutely an element of it though, right? It's getting hotter. We're running. It's probably a little later in the day. The sun is high. Now we're freaking out that it's hot. Now our heart rate's even higher. And then you look and see it's actually 85 degrees. Yeah. So be calm and listen.
Yes. So today we are going to cover how you can smartly, safely, and smoothly get used to the heat as we approach the summer running months.
First up is pre-hydrate. We just get lazy in the winter and the cold, myself too, because we're not in the mode of like what we need to do for the next day, because when it's cool out, we can literally just kind of go out and do whatever we want and hydrate during, and it's enough. But that's not the case for when it's warm. So it's real simple. The day before, you're just going to up your fluids like 10 to 20%. So maybe even that's like 15 ounces. And maybe most importantly, pop some electrolytes with that. So popping a Noonan in water. It's fun. I love the cola flavor. And it also has a little bit of caffeine if you need a little pop. Put a little extra salt on your food. That's going to help that extra hydration really get absorbed and retained. And those fluids are going to help tee you up to have a much better hydrated training the next day.
And you said the day before, but we should also remember that if you are training for a marathon, a half marathon, any race in particular, and you are doing strength training and running, chances are good that you have 5 to 6 days of doing something. So just in general, going into the summer, we need to up that hydration level across the board, because it's sort of like sleep in a way that it's not the night before that makes the big difference. It's like 2 nights before a race that you need that good sleep, because we always have nerves the day before. So you have to really back that out. Everything just has to level up on the hydration. All right, next up is layers. So we want to do this sort of in the reverse of the way that we do this for the cold. So plan your gear with layers that are lighter than you're actually used to, not heavier, and that they're easy to take off and maybe easy to stash. So a lot of our running gear for the summer and in this like sort of transitional period is a jacket that's packable, right? Something that can like be balled up and put into a pack, or easily stashed. Arm sleeves, things like that.
Don't be me.
Don't be you.
Don't be me. Yeah, I went out, I put clothes on that I coach in, and then if I have time during certain windows, I'm like, I'll go out for a run. And I decided I had on thick, full-length trail tights, and I decided to go out for a run, and I I melted. I was held captive by my own leggings. And I was so hot and so sweltery, even 2 miles in, that I was just like, this was such a mistake. I should have taken the time. I could take off. I think I had a t-shirt on. I ended up going down to a sports bra and these thick leggings because this was my option. What I should have done is just swapped them out for capris, right? Or even like a half tight, and that would have been a lot smarter. So don't be me.
Yeah. I think there's like very few things that are worse than my legs sweating. It's such a disgusting feeling.
I was very hot. Yeah.
And even right now, like I forget the difference of I'm so used to in the winter throwing on the long sleeves, the waffle layers, the super warm things because I don't like being too cold. But I also remember recently I don't like being too hot, and the difference between the moment I need the Goldilocks, right? Yeah, I need that Goldilocks moment. But the difference between like a light long sleeve and a short sleeve for me is substantial. I feel so overheated when I have sleeves on.
I agree.
And even despite the fact that my hands will go numb at 60 degrees because of rainouts, but when I'm outside running, I need to have
air in your skin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So even for me, a tank top, I go from like full jacket to tank top. Like I don't have a lot of steps in between. And if I do, I have those packable layers that I know I'm going to shed. Because I don't like the first miles are the hardest, trying to figure out how hot is it actually, how warm am I running today, and do I need this? Or sometimes it can be even different, like going around a corner, or
and then it changes
from sun to shade, and you're like, it's just such a weird time of the year to figure it out. Along with the layers, we really suggest that as you're acclimating to the heat, that you are making notes about like the temperature in your training peaks or in your training journal that you're handwriting. Making those notes about what you wore and how you felt, because it's just a really confusing time. And if you can look back and go, today's 50 with light wind, oh yeah, this is what works for me, it makes it a lot better.
I love a half zip for that reason. Or anything with a zipper, right? Anything that you can kind of come up and come down as you're roasting and not roasting. Again, easy on, easy off.
Yep.
Next up is nutrition. I feel like this is such a big one, but just planning it out. Chances are you're starting to go a little bit longer. I know we have a lot of people that are training for half Ironmans, half marathons. We have been much more used to just shorter distance stuff recently. Mm-hmm. So we haven't really had to plan. We've been a little lazy, maybe. Just me. But we haven't necessarily had to plan like what we're going to eat the day before in order to properly fuel, which is going to help us regulate our temperature. Definitely during, I see a lot of panic even with my own athletes of like, I'm out of gels. And it's like, we're just not in practice of needing them. We haven't been that much longer than an hour, but now they are. And then after, right? So making sure that we're getting something in within 30 minutes, ideally some protein and some carbs. So just planning it. Just when you do your meal planning for the week, think about, do I have longer efforts coming up? And what am I going to do before, during, and after for that?
Yeah. Then the next one you mentioned in the hydration piece, but it deserves its own topic here, is electrolytes. So as the summer months come and as it gets warmer, it is so important that we are using electrolytes before, during, and after our runs. The Noon Tabs, Salt Sticks, Element.
When it's hotter, you're burning through electrolytes faster, right? And on top of that, just like we said, most people's mileages are really starting to build. So you are going to be in a deficit. Mm-hmm. We've said this before on here, but electrolytes and carbs are pretty different stores. You have, a few hours of carbs on you at any time. But the cool thing is that you can put food in and start to re-top off those stores pretty smoothly, and you can use them again. Electrolytes are finite. Very much varies how much you have on you based on how much you sweat and how much you retain. But if you let those go too low, it is a 24-hour refill period. So no matter what, you are going to have a whole day to catch up if you get too far behind. And electrolytes are really, they're responsible for keeping our brains clear and helping our muscles fire. It is literally telling your nerves, hey, stop, go, left, right. Mm-hmm. If you let that go too low, everything becomes way harder. So do a little bit of insurance, right? An insurance bump, it always helps. And, you know, good news is that we sell them all at Edge. So right here in the cafe, stop in.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've been hearing recently is about cramping. So,
yes.
like, I have folks who just did their first races of the season who, cramped for the first time since last summer, and we're trying to figure it out. Electrolytes for sure. And in the pool, people's training in the pool is
interesting.
It's one of the ways that I can tell an electrolyte deficiency in some of my triathletes is when they cramp pushing off the balls.
Yeah.
And that's just a clear sign like you have gone too far.
Yeah, up it up. Definitely up it.
All right, next up is sunscreen. So something we have to be thinking about now. Should also be thinking about this in the winter, but I will also be the first to admit that I only start thinking about sunscreen when it gets a little bit warmer outside.
Yeah, and when you got more skin out.
More skin out, yep. So making sure that you are using that sunscreen and finding a sunscreen that works for you. Some of them are really disgusting to sweat in. So,
yeah, I mean, a chemical-based sunscreen, they're very convenient, right? So it's all the cheaper ones, a lot of the spray ones. They're literally creating like a chemical barrier, like saran wrap. It's like wrapping your body in saran wrap. So the sun does not get to your skin because it's stopped by the chemical barrier, which is helpful from you're not going to get burned standpoint, but it definitely is not helpful from a temperature regulation standpoint. And this is another thing that we see with athletes that'll go, like on spring break and run in hot environments, and they're like, oh my gosh, I was just so hot. And it's like, well, yeah, you sprayed yourself all over. Yeah. So looking for a mineral-based one, I know that they're becoming more and more popular. The way that those work are pretty cool because it actually soaks into your skin so that your skin becomes the barrier alongside with the minerals, and it allows you to breathe and thermoregulate better.
Yeah, just a quick note about that. Test it before you wear it with your really nice running gear, especially the white or light gray running gear, which is another hack here. As it gets warmer outside and the sun is burning hotter, don't be me in the all black out there.
But it looks cool. It
looks great, but lighter colors will keep you cooler and help you regulate the heat a little bit better. But some of these mineral-based sunscreens or zinky sunscreens can stain clothes. And so I have a couple of really nice running kit that has like these stains around the neck and the collars. I didn't get burned, but also I destroyed my clothes. So check that before you slather it on completely.
Next up is route. We got options, right? Especially here in the city, we got a lot of options. But, planning it so that you're in the shade when you're doing work, right? Heat acclimation is always best. So this is what is happening. We're running in heat. It is heat acclimation. It is always best with aerobic, easier efforts, easy AF, right? That is really what helps us acclimate fastest. But that's not going to be all your runs, chances are. So if we know that we have a run and we have a section there where we're going to need to press the pace, you are going to maybe plan that part to do it in the shade, or maybe do it once the sun is, not right above your head, so that you are able to do the work where it's a little cooler, and then save your heat training for the easy efforts. And last but not least is simple. It's anticipate it. All of those Training Peaks entries from this weekend are because people were super surprised by it. And we talk about Henry the Heat Monster quite a bit. He is my friend and foe, but he is way bigger this time of year because he's scary, and you are in DC freaking out about how you're feeling and whatever temperature you think it is. But as we dance with him throughout the summer, he becomes a smaller and a smaller presence. Don't get discouraged because it feels hard, because everybody feels that way. You are not alone. It will get better, but if we anticipate it and can learn some of these 7 tips and take even just a couple with us, chances are you're going to navigate it that much smoother.
Yeah, and the truth is, this time of year, anticipating it means expecting really wild swings in Chicago weather. And so while I didn't anticipate that we'd go from 50 to 80, knowing that that's a possibility, and I just need to have the clothes and the tools ready to go at any point in time. It does get easier in the summer as we hit a sort of more steady temperature, and we're at that point a little more used to it. So
it's a skill.
It just gets better from here, folks.
All right, so we had 7 ways that we can really get better with the heat, our safe reentry with the heat. I'm hoping it's hot again for a little bit while longer so that we can test some of these out.
I cannot wait until I'm ending my runs jumping in the lake. That's my number.
Oh.
That's maybe my number one heat acclimation.
When do you think that's going to happen?
Oh, maybe August 1st. The lake is cold right now.
Somebody invite Coach Chris to jump in the lake before then. All right. Thanks, guys. Till next time.
Thanks for listening to Coach Quip. Original music performed by Mend. Follow us online on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Edge Athlete Lounge. Our podcast lives in the blog section of our website. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and you can check out the show notes for additional ways to contact us. Ready, set, onward we go.